what are Grand Servants? Grand Servants are the most powerful servants in the entirety of the Fate franchise, the most powerful of their respective classes, ones that are able to defeat the evils of humanity that no other servants are able to do, and can take them on one by one if they need to, or they can team up and take on multiple evils or the beast of humanity. But today, we're gonna have a little fun with the Grand Servant class idea by proposing the other ones that have yet to be announced. Hi, it is me, Dragon Saint, Friend Local Dragon VTuber streamer, and today we're going to be going over my ideas for the future Grand Servants for the classes that have yet to be announced that they might do in either part 3 of FGO, or they can just randomly drop at a drop of a hat. So as always, don't forget to leave a like, comment, sub, and all that good stuff, and let's get into it. So currently, we only have 2 Grand Servants in FGO that we know of. Technically 3, but I'll get to the third one here in a minute. The 2 being Grand Lancer Romulus and a Grand Assassin, Tezcatlipoca, or Tez for short. And the other one being Grand Caster Merlin, even though technically he's still alive and not really dead, but loopholes, am I right? And again, I'll go over another potential Grand Caster towards the end of this video, so stay tuned for my ideas for that. But for now, the former ones that we know of are Grand Archer Super Orion, who gave up his class during the battle in Lost Spell 5, trying to take down Artemis from out in space. Grand Assassin, the first Hassan, who gave up his position back in Babylonia to help take down Tiamat at the end of Babylonia. And then the Grand Caster Solomon, who gave up his position by using Ars Nova to essentially wipe him out of the Throne of Heroes so he can't be summoned again, leaving the Grand Caster seat vacant. Giant quotations. And of course, the only other one that is known but is in the Fate Grand Order Arcade is the Grand Rider Noah, which I'll also get to him in a minute. And the reason why I say Grand Rider Noah is a known one is because while Arcade is like a separate story of FGO, many are still wanting him to be the official Grand Rider to be announced in FGO at some point, including me. So, not any further ado, here is my first candidate for Grand Saber. My candidate for Grand Saber is not going to be Artoria, even though everyone else really wants Artoria to be the Grand Saber, the poster child of the entire series. Which I don't think is gonna happen. Mainly because it's too much of an easy thing that they could do, like, oh, Artoria doesn't have an actual point in the entire story yet. Let's just throw her into the Grand class before she even has an actual story relevance. I think Gilgamesh is like a best choice for it because A, he was around long before Artoria and did so many good things for humanity as a whole, and even ushered in so many things compared to Artoria. So Gilgamesh just being like a natural choice in my opinion. Which, could he also be a Grand Archer? He could, because we do have, you know, Orion going from normal Archer to Grand Archer, and 3-star Romulus being Grand Lancer Romulus, or even, you know, the Hassans, which I know first Hassan is actually the first Hassan, the other ones are just like his subordinates basically, but it is still possible. But I just think it would make more sense if Gilgamesh just becomes the Grand Saber, so that way he can just usher in some more damage, and so we can get our good favorite king back in action for some good old action throwdown with one of the beasts of humanity. And then my second candidate for Grand Archer is none other than FGO's poster child, Artoria. And here's why I think Artoria would be a good choice for Grand Archer. So similar to how Tez has to become the Grand Assassin because he was forced into that role because of Hassan stepping down, and the Throne of Heroes being like, hey, we need a Grand Assassin. If you go there, Tez. It could be the same thing with Artoria being like, hey, we need a Grand Archer. You go there. Because there is an archer in the Knights of the Round Table, aka Tristan, because he uses a bow. The only knight out of the ones in FGO so far that uses a bow from the Knights of the Round Table. None of the other knights do it. They all have swords, or lances, or a staff, but not a bow. I think Artoria could be that unique alternative, so to speak, which would also be like a good kind of reference to, the Fate, Stay Night, Unlimited Blade Works, that whole Shiro, Artoria route. Being like, hey, I'm now an archer as well. Something seems familiar about this. I don't know why. And also because we may already have an archer, Artoria, but make her a buster AoE would be pretty cool. So I think having that as an alternative for a Grand Archer would kind of also make sense because none of the other servants really screams Grand Archer. Yeah, we could have a Rash, which would also be a good choice, but compared to Artoria, not really. But having that as a main story point of yeah, same thing happened to Tez, but rather than being forced into it, I offered to become the new Grand Archer so we can fight the other beasts of humanity and get proper human history back on track. And then next is gonna be Grand Caster. Now, earlier I said we do have a Grand Caster as Merlin, but my opinion, he doesn't really scream Grand Caster, but I can still see FGO being like, oh hey, yeah, he's officially actual Grand Caster, and he's still alive, and Avalon doing all the other stuff, find loopholes to get into assistance with Chaldea to help them out whenever they need it. But in the event that, they pull another, he steps down, or he's not available, or they decided to pull whatever loophole, be like, we need another Grand Caster, my candidate, in the event that does happen, is going to be Queen of Sheba, and here's why. Now, we do have Caster Gil, which I think would also be a good choice for Grand Caster if this whole, route happens, but with the backstory of Queen of Sheba being the potential wife, empress, lover of Solomon, and having essentially same level of clairvoyance as Solomon himself. Hell, there's even one point where it actually says that the Queen of Sheba has a clairvoyance level on par with Solomon himself, and none of the other servants who are casters or even could qualify for a Grand Caster has a level of clairvoyance with Solomon, because Merlin can only see the present. Gilgamesh, however, could kind of see the future, but not really the past, so to speak. Whereas Solomon can see both past and future, because he's just that busted. And Queen of Sheba has that same thing, but she's a 4-star. So making her a Grand Caster on the same level as Solomon, doing the same things he can, would just be mind-blowing, and I would live for it. Because it would be so cool just to have her in that role. Then next we have Grand Rider, which I still think should be Noah. Even though he is arcade only at the moment, he just makes the most sense to be Grand Rider. Because he's already there. We know what his noble phantasm is in arcade. All they gotta do is implement that into base FGO, and you're good. You literally don't have to do nothing else. Just make the sprite, make the animation, and you're good. Granted, they probably won't have his whole fighting, you know, the beast at the end of Babylonia in arcade, but they could still have something else happen with like an aspect of like the foreign god appearing, or another evil of humanity appearing out of nowhere, and it's like he pops up because Nemo sacrifices his spirit origin to fuse with Noah, and then becomes Grand Rider all of a sudden, and just kicks open, like just pops open a can of whoop ass on everyone. Which I could see that happening towards the end of part 3, where it's like, hey, we need a boat. We need to get out of here. The storm border is just about to blow up, be destroyed. We need a way out of here. Nemo being like, how about we summon a grand servant? I'll use myself as a catalyst, similar to what Romulus did in Olympus. We'll just do that all over again. And because of that, Noah appears and is like, don't worry guys, I'll repair your boat. Boat fixed. Alright, let's get out of here. I'll also fight on the way out, so ta-da! Which again, no other rider really screams Grand Rider, even though there is Taigong proclaiming himself to be a Grand Rider candidate. He just doesn't have the personality, the skills, the oomph to be a grand servant. He just doesn't scream it at all. No matter what he does, he just doesn't seem like a Grand Rider in my opinion. So I just don't think he'd be a good Grand Rider, and we just stick to Noah, because there's no one else that can be a Grand Rider. Will he give up his position to help out Chaldea? Probably not. He'll probably just be like Romulus or Tez, be like, I'm here to do my job, and I'll just dip out. Nemo will still be safe, he's here. You all have a good rest of your day. And it just dips on out. And then lastly, the final grand servant should be none other than Herc himself, because there's just no other berserker that can fit or is even good enough to be a grand berserker, a grand class servant. Because Lubu doesn't fit it, Vlad doesn't fit it, Spartacus definitely doesn't fit it. No matter how many people want Spartacus to be the grand berserker, it's not gonna happen, I'm sorry. He doesn't scream grand. Even though he is grand in some people's hearts, he's just not good enough to be a grand servant in my opinion. And one might also be thinking, but if he's gonna be a grand servant, he should be able to talk at least, not just be able to scream and yell and break stuff. And you're right, because he's not. Because by being upgraded to a grand class servant, he still retains his madness enhancement, being good old Herc as he is, but he is able to be coherent, form words, talk, just do normal stuff like every other berserker after him, well, most after him, such as Nightingale, Kentucky, Arjuna Alter, Jalter. It's like all these other berserker servers I can still have madness enhancement and talk. So I think him being the grand berserker just makes sense. Which I know everyone was wanting Herc to be a grand berserker, and I agree with him. He truly should, because his 12 labors to appease the Greek gods is already noteworthy, way before like any other mythology, history, kingdom, country, whatever. So any other grand berserker just doesn't make sense. Could there be another Tez? Because Tez was supposed to be the original grand berserker. And while that could happen with another aspect of Tez, kind of like in Lost Belt 7, where we had a blue Tez as the king of dinosaurs, young Tez as I like to call him. It is possible, but I just feel like that would be kind of a cop-out, like a lazy move that they could pull of like, oh, he was already supposed to be Grand Berserker, so we'll just reuse him again. But he'll look slightly different. But as far as where or when these potential Grand Servants could appear, I would say more than likely towards the end of Part 3. And I'll explain why. Because Part 3, my speculation is that we're gonna go back to Fuyuki, where it all began, where like the Bleached Earth phenomenon was originally gonna happen, Foreign God appears, which is also why we had to go back in time to fix the singularities going all the way back to Babylonia, and eventually Solomon. Because Solomon said himself that after this year, he can't see what's happening. Some people originally would think, oh, that's when the Bleached Earth phenomenon happens. But what if it happened after Fuyuki? Like, what happened in the Singularity F is what caused the Bleached Earth phenomenon. So by going back to Fuyuki, we can learn what's going on there, why the Foreign God bleached Earth in the first place, and try and fix it by going back to Singularity F, but this time with a new purpose. And by going through that Singularity, fixing the mistakes of the past director of Chaldea, because he probably messed it up somehow. We learn why the Foreign God bleached the Earth, and then we fight the last evil of humanity, which is when all the other Grand Servants will appear, which probably get little by little, like on the way there, you know, because Part 3 will probably get other Grand Servants to appear, and then at the end of Part 3 we'll get all of the current Grand Servants to appear. So that's just my thought of what Part 3 could be, along with the other Grand Servants. So hope y'all enjoyed this video, and if you did, again, don't forget to leave a like, comment, sub, and all of that good stuff. Do let me know what your thoughts or who you might want to be the other Grand Servants. And we'll probably talk it out. Possibly another video, who knows? But again, have a good rest of your day and or night, and I'll catch y'all later in the next video, whatever that may be. So, thanks again for watching, and later!